But the most evident and visible aspect of Romanism is the adoration of Mary. And that's what I'd like to read to you from the newspapers about the false doctrine. In other words, what I mean by that is there's a doctrine of Mary in the Bible. I mean, there's doctrine, doxos is teaching, and the discussion of, there's a lot taught about Mary. One of the greatest women that ever lived. God only had one son, and He chose Mary to raise him. There's lots, but she never in the Bible is treated the way Romanism treats her. And let me show you exactly what I mean by that. I'll start with, from the newspaper, appearances of Mary. You can track this on the web, and you can just chart the appearances of Mary around the world, and they give them to you everywhere. Here's something from the papers, and I just want to read it to you. It says, "We are now standing in the face of the greatest historical confrontation humanity has gone through." In your mind, trying to figure out who's talking. "I do not think that the wide circles of American society or the wide circles of the Christian community realize this fully. We are now facing the final confrontation between the church and the anti-church, of the gospel versus the anti-gospel." Now that profound statement was made by a guy named Cardinal Wojtyla, Pope John Paul II, about 23 years ago. And then he wrote down what he thought about it. His book is on Mary, his personal autobiography, and then his personal meditations on Mary. And no one has a higher view of Mary than Pope John Paul II. And he said that the people that are resisting Mary are the anti-church and the anti-gospel people. Very interesting to think about. Well, what is Mary doing when she comes back in Roman Catholic theology? And I would like to read to you right now, and I downloaded it from the Catholic Central site, just about one appearance of Mary. Now, this is, if you were a Roman Catholic, you know about Our Lady of Guadalupe. You've heard of it. The event happened in December of 1531, 468 years ago. But let me read to you what happened there. And just in your mind, with everything you know about the Scriptures and the Lord and God's Word, just trying to go through this official sighting of Mary that is enshrined by the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, it's not, they don't distance themselves from it. They don't repudiate it. They don't say it was not true. They don't say there are problems with it. In fact, they have, as you know, it's one of the most renowned images of Mary there is. Early in the morning of December 9th, 1531, 5 miles north of the borders of Mexico City, a 57-year-old Aztec Indian by the name of Juan Diego was running to attend Mass in the nearest village with a church. As he reached the foot of the hill known as Tepeyac, where there had been in the past a temple to the Aztec Mother Goddess, that's a point worth noting right there, there seemed to be a sudden silence, broken by a woman's voice calling his name. The sun barely had risen, but Juan saw, surrounded by golden beams of light, a young Mexican girl about 14 years of age. She was said to be beautiful, but no reliable description comes down to this day. She told Juan that she required a chapel to be built at the site of this vision, and then instructed him to run to the bishop at Mexico City and pass on the message. This Juan did, and after some delay, obtained an audience. The bishop, it seems, was not unreasonable and said Juan could visit him again, though he promised nothing. Juan went away, and the homeward journey he saw the figure he took to be the Virgin Mary at the same spot. She comforted him, told him to try again at Mexico City the next day, which was Sunday. The next morning, having been to Mass, Juan returned to Bishop Zuarmanga, and again the bishop was tolerant. On his way back home to visit Juan Bernardino, the uncle of his uncle who was seriously ill, he saw her again, and she promised that she would provide a sign the next morning. When Juan returned the next morning, he was expecting his uncle to die. She at once assured him that his uncle's health was restored at that instant, and she went on to tell him to pick some flowers from the top of the hill, though the season that it was, December, should have precluded their growth. There were flowers in full bloom, which included the Castilian roses. Juan picked a few, took them to the bishop, folded up in his long outer cape, known as the tilma. Then, in a fashion that featured in a number of other legends and miracles, such as the veil of St. Veronica, a miracle seemed to have occurred. As Juan, he was wearing this big robe, unfolded the tilma, it emerged that the image of the girl he had seen and spoken to on the hill was imprinted on it in full color. The bishop and others fell to their knees, and it was commanded that the cloth should be taken and hung on the wall of the bishop's private chapel. Furthermore, when Juan went back to his uncle, he found the old man fully recovered, and telling how he'd been healed by a glowing young woman who had said to him, "Call me and my image Santa Maria de Guadalupe." Well, this Guadalupe vision has probably been romanticized, the Roman Catholics say. But we still have certain elements that are in all of it. And what it is that all of them say that this is the image of the woman, that she causes flowers to grow in December, and that she can heal people by speaking to them from afar. This was what the Roman Catholic Church has written, if you've ever been to the cathedral there. Her words to Juan Diego in 1531 was, "I wish that a temple be erected here quickly so that I may therein exhibit and give all my love, compassion, help, and protection because I am your merciful mother." What the Roman Catholics have attached this vision is, and what Guadalupe means. And I'll go through that with you right here. It is believed that Our Lady used the Aztec Nahuatl word for Cuatlasupe, and it sounds remarkably like the Spanish word Guadalupe. The first part means serpent. The middle part is the noun ending, which can be interpreted as the, and the last part means to crush or stamp out. So Our Lady must have called herself the one who crushes the serpent. Now, turn back to Genesis 3 with me for just a moment, because I want to show you the very first prophecy of the gospel. We call it the proto-evangelium. Christ is the prototokos. He is the head, the first of all. Well, proto in the Greek language means first, and so the proto-evangelium means the first mention of the gospel. The first time the gospel is mentioned is in Genesis 3, verse 15. And this is what the Lord said to the serpent. Very interesting. Verse 14 is a curse on the serpent, and Satan possessed and indwelt the serpent and spoke through the serpent. Verse 15, the Lord continues. This is God speaking. Verse 15 of Genesis 3. "I, God, will put enmity between you, serpent, and the woman, and between your seed, serpent, and her seed, woman." Serpents don't have seed. Women don't have seed. So we have a little medical quandary here. So immediately we're coming into the spiritual dimension, and the seed of the serpent is going to be the descendants, the followers. And by the way, this is the beginning of the two churches, God's church, Satan's church, right here. And the first member of Satan's church was Cain. And the first member of the Lord's church, of course, were Adam and Eve and Abel. But between serpent's seed, the descendants, the followers of Satan's religion, and her seed, the woman's seed, which is a prophecy of Christ coming. Because he was what born? Virgin born. Women don't have seed. And so what this is saying is a supernatural birth. The woman would have a descendant that would not come by normal means. And so this is the first mention of the gospel. But look at this. The woman's seed, which we know is Christ, he, this seed, this man, shall bruise your head, serpent, and you, serpent, shall bruise his heel. This is a prophecy of Jesus Christ crushing Satan. At the cross, he crushed Satan. What has Roman Catholicism done with that prophecy? They have laid it at the feet, literally, of Mary, most well known of all the representations of Mary. And Mary has become Maria de Guadalupe, Mary the serpent crusher, usurping Christ's place.